The next one, which I think is extremely important too, is to more effectively manage data and information relevant to the coastal zone. There are a lot of data sets relating to the coastal zone. It's an extremely complex area of, if you like, scientific information and regulation, particularly when you look at the ocean side of things, the intertidal zone plus the terrestrial areas. There's an absolute plethora of policies and regulations which affect that whole area. So having some sort of combined database we think is a good objective to work towards. Obviously having the combined resources helps us with our applications through the various grant schemes that come forward, and obviously very interested to hear about the Coast West stuff today, and we'll be talking further about that obviously after tomorrow's meeting with the senior officers. And there's also an NCARF, which is the research unit at Griffith University that receives a lot of Commonwealth funding. That's got another round of funding that's out in the system at the moment that we'll be targeting as well. Another objective is to provide a consistent set of information to coastal communities and decision makers about vulnerability and risk and our possible adaptation strategies. And this is something that we were talking about earlier on at lunchtime in terms of how do we bring the communities along with us. I mean, I think in the paper that I've handed out, one of the clear messages that came out of that conference in the Gold Coast was that there's a complete void, or a complete gap, huge gap, between the science of climate change and the actual understanding of what it means at the community level. So that has to be bridged, and we think that it's an important objective for us to inform the communities as to what we're doing and where we're going with our research and our outcomes. Another objective is to share local knowledge and experiences and to support and inform appropriate adaptation responses. So obviously, as I was saying before, Mandurah, Cottesloe to a certain extent, Busselton with its experience, Bunbury with its unique circumstances. Our experiences in terms of things like how we plan through our town planning schemes, how we deal with development control, how we issue building licences and things like that in relation to areas that might be susceptible to inundation or to coastal change is very important. So it's an opportunity for us to come together and exchange ideas and experience and knowledge. So there's some of the key objectives that would be written into the MOU, which tomorrow we'll hopefully get to an end point. I think that's pretty much gives you the background to how the partnership has evolved and where we're at. I thought it might be useful to just maybe try and field as many questions as possible, because there's not much else I can say about the partnership, which is clearly not formal until possibly after tomorrow or down the track when each council gets an opportunity to tick it off. So I'm happy to take questions if people want some further information. Yep.
There are other partnerships like this in Western Australia, or is it just this
No.
part of the coast because it's so long?
No, as far as we're aware, this is the only partnership of this type. We felt that, I know the question was asked earlier on in relation to Margaret River, you know, why that's all Manjimup or Nanup and not part of it, but I think we felt that the fact that the Commonwealth Government had actually identified this stretch of coast as the most vulnerable land at risk, which is basically the Swan Coastal Plain south of Freo, we thought that that was a really good opportunity for us to capitalise on, if you like, in terms of the way in which we would go back to the Commonwealth for support through research grants or through recurrent funding to do ongoing research and manage the coastal zone. So that was the basis that we did it. I know there are other collaborations, I mean, but I don't think there's anything like this one. Yeah. It's a good question. We decided to make it a local government partnership only. That doesn't mean that we're not going to work with and invite along to various, if you like, technical meetings, the representatives. The key representatives, of course, would be Department of Planning through their coastal branch, people like Vivian Panizza, the Marine Division of Transport, people like Matt Elliott, who does, he's in private consultancy now, beg your pardon, but who do the modelling work and do the coastal infrastructure stuff. We'd be working very closely with them, and the small number of, if you like, senior consultants that operate out of WA, people like Dr. Robert Kay is an example. We have close relationships with these people, and they would be very much part of our discussions, but in a formal sense, none of those would be part of our actual partnership. We kept it to local government.
Is there a specific reason for that?
Well, we believe that the local government circumstances are somewhat different than state government, and we feel that to get effective advocacy, we need to have a potent group of local governments. We don't feel that having, if we have partnerships with the state or other agencies, we feel that might dilute our effectiveness, rightly or wrongly. Absolutely. I mean, those sort of infrastructures are vital to our WA economy, and there are plenty of other regional ports that would be equally as concerned. Obviously, loading might become a little bit easier as the sea level rises, and unloading. Look, we have spoken to the Port Authority, and they're clearly people that we are going to talk further with, and they are concerned about it, and do have significant capacity to model the effects of climate change on their infrastructure. They've got better information than most other agencies in the system, believe it or not, and they've got the money to spend on it too.
So there is some leeway there, like say half a metre rise, there is some leeway at present.
Well, I believe so, but I haven't seen that in writing or quantified, but I'm sure it has been discussed. I mean, Mia Smith has been a member of the Bunbury Port Authority. I know they do model these things extensively. We will be looking to access some of their data sets, obviously, in the work that we're talking about, because they do a lot more research than, as I say, other government agencies and local government itself. Absolutely. Oh, sorry, surface groundwater. You mean the aquifers? Aquifers, yes. Saltwater intrusion is a significant issue. As I said, I should have mentioned this, but the full impact of climate change is something that we were well aware of, which is extensive, and it goes into other areas like bushfires, even those sorts of areas. We've actually largely focused on the coastal change issue. The issue of sea level rise and our coastal aquifers is a very, very important one, because a lot of us extract our drinking water from those aquifers. So there will need to be extensive monitoring of that intrusion, that saltwater intrusion, into the freshwater groundwater, for sure. That's just another component, if you like, to the complexity of the issue. Yeah.
Geoff, I think it's heartening to hear that you've formed this committee, because, I mean, you mentioned the options of retreating or defending. My understanding is that if you do choose to defend and you do some sort of engineering solution for whatever piece of coast that might be vulnerable, that could have a negative impact on a neighbouring shire or area. So I think it's really good that you've established this committee, and it might be something you'd look at in your MOU, for example, about resolving those potential conflicts that could occur.
Well, we have some great case studies. I mean, I always like Bustleton. I mean, I know a fair bit about Bustleton, and I just love watching the poor guys in the planning department down there trying to deal with the issue of climate change with sea level rise and extreme events. It's a tough gig for them. They have gone down the track, as a lot of you probably know, over a very long period of time of defending. They've been dropping rocks and putting groins in down there for probably 30, 40 years, probably longer, actually. And in some instances, I think was referred to previously, if you go to Siesta Park,